Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Fruit for Thought. Today, we have the wonderful Paddy on the show. Paddy is one of my favourite clients. He's been a client for over a year now. I think it's like just over a year. I had a look in the diary, and that has
Well, I
flown.
mean, technically not a client currently because I'm having a little financial
well, I
pause, but
mean,
I'm still
yes.
here because I love it that much.
Your last session was like a week ago. I don't feel like you've left me yet.
I haven't been mourned yet.
No, you haven't been mourned. Take me a couple of weeks, and I'll be like, "It's Paddy," and then I'm like, "Oh no, yeah, Paddy's no longer with me. Yeah, it's not real yet."
I am coming back. I'm just trying to pay for some renovations in a house.
Yes, that yeah, 'cause you had that leak.
Yeah.
Yeah, drama, house drama. I keep doing that voice, and it's a new thing, and I don't love it.
You maybe
But it
pick that up
happens.
from me because I do that all the time.
Do you?
Drama. Yeah.
I've never heard you do that once.
Oh, I'm a big vocal tick kind of guy.
I mean, I feel like, yeah, we probably do make lots of like weird noises in our sessions. So maybe I just haven't noticed that we're like doing it. Yeah. Cool. So obviously just over a year ago, came on as a client.
I did.
And it was mainly to like improve health. It was more like health concerns, wasn't it? That you kind of started your fitness journey.
Yours.
Yeah.
Or restarted at least. Anyway.
Restarted. Yeah. Do you wanna tell us, if you're comfortable, a little bit about like your health journey and what that's kind of looked like?
Sure. So when I were but a wee baby, I guess you could have always described me as a bit of a sickly child. Probably
Okay.
I got all the bugs. I got all the things.
Oh, you're that kid.
I got diagnosed with asthma when I was like 6 or 7, I think. And then I also had like unbelievably flat feet, and I would walk like a penguin. And so I was like over at the orthotist, and they gave me like arch supports. But at no point did anyone kind of put any of this together into any kind of diagnoses. At this point, it was just like, there's a child with very flat feet and unbelievably bendy limbs. Like,
Yeah.
no, but nobody really like ever labeled it as anything, and I certainly didn't know it was anything to be labeled. In hindsight, the signs were there that I also had ADHD and autism, but again, that was something that I've been diagnosed with later in life and have only really put the kind of puzzle pieces together at a later date to try and understand all of it. But turns out a lot of this goes hand in hand. So later in life, probably in my early 20s, I was also then diagnosed with hypermobility syndrome. I suspect I also have something called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is similar and related, but I haven't ever bothered to get a formal diagnosis of that. But that is a connective tissue disorder, so you kind of don't process collagen in the same way that other people do, and it's a genetic thing, but it results in you having very kind of like soft but delicate skin and like connective tissue joints that maybe bend in ways that they shouldn't. The people who have it worst might have like issues with their circulation system and can have things like POTS and like will pass out and faint quite a lot because of sort of interesting vascular things, which I don't fully understand. Thankfully, that's not one of mine.
Yeah. Well, I think there's lots of different types of EDS.
Yes.
So it could be that you have the hypermobility EDS.
Yes. Which I think
but those
probably
people
is.
have like more of the like the vascular type.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole
world,
thing, isn't it?
It's a whole thing. But yeah, like going back to childhood, like I was actually a pretty active kid. Like I did a lot of sport. I swam. I did a lot of athletics and running. I played rugby. But even now, looking back, like the signs were still there. I can recall Mr. Mulhern, one of my rugby tutors at secondary school, sort of like commenting upon my running style.
Oh.
It was like, I don't know why it works, but it works. I've never seen anyone move so fast, but flail so much.
Fast flailing.
Fast flailing. I used to kick people's hands away as they try and tackle me because my legs were going like sideways instead of running like in a normal motion.
I mean, that's quite a good tactic as well, isn't it? Like creating like a little like barrier around yourself.
kind of what was happening, yeah. But yeah, like, again, didn't really think anything of it, and it was very much kind of like one of those jokes where I'll laugh along with it rather than take anything to heart, even though I still ended up with. In fact, no, I probably can't say what my actual nickname was because slur. But you know, it was a known thing that I was a sort of like somehow athletic, but still pretty like kind of klutzy and goofy kind
Yeah.
of movement type person.
I imagine
Um,
like when you're a kid as well though, like if no one's telling you, hey, actually this thing could be going on as well, like you're a kid.
yeah, yeah,
You're like not you're just gonna be like, oh well, I've got this stuff.
yeah,
And like you're not gonna think anything more of
yeah,
it,
yeah,
really, I
yeah.
guess.
And I just had like terrible balance, like terrible kind of like proprioception, terrible like spatial awareness. Like,
Yeah.
so rugby was probably my least skilled bit. It was a kind of a case of like, if I caught the ball, then I'd probably be golden, but it was a big if as to whether I was going to catch the ball.
Yeah.
So swimming and running less so, because, you know, you just kind of do your own thing. But
Mm.
um, yeah, so like there was lots of bits and pieces like that. But I guess the thing with hypermobility and EDS is that um, I mean, in old money, you might just think of it as being double jointed. So, like, all of my joints kind of just go past center and
Mm.
lock past center from where they're supposed to. But when I was a kid, I could, like, you know, bend all of my limbs out of shape and my legs go behind my head, and I could do double lotus and walk around on my knees. And I'd have all of these little,
Yeah.
like, party tricks that everyone has. I still do one of them now. My fingers, like, bend freakishly far backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but at the time, like, you think, oh, it's just a bit of double jointedness. Oh, you're just really flexible. Oh, you're
Yeah.
just this, that, and the other. It's no big deal. The problem is that, like, the more that you like bend your body out of shape in these ways, like, and put loads of force through it and stretch all of your ligaments and everything, the more damage you do over
Mm-hmm.
time. And slowly but surely, that like massive amount of mobility that you've got restricts more and more, and you get more and more injuries. And
Yeah.
suddenly, like, you're not able to do all of those like crazy movement things that you used to be able to do, or they cause you a lot of pain and a lot of things like that. And so, yeah, I guess like that slowly shrank back. And then for various reasons, I stopped doing as much sport and activity as I used to. Um, Sort of related but unrelated note is that I was also diagnosed with HIV when I was 19. And I think that, again, something that no one really talks you through, but later in life, I've kind of put things together that there is relationships between a lot of these things where you kind of have a sort of a sense of chronic inflammation,
Mm-hmm.
which can come hand in hand with hypermobility anyway. It can come with asthma anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But also, if you think you've got something like the HIV virus, which, for those of you who don't know, when you're on treatment, you can suppress it to the point that you can't find it in the bloodstream, but it has like reservoirs that it will build of itself in your body and in your like immune system that can kind of come back at any time. So if I stopped taking my treatment, then it would just kind of come flooding back. But
Mm.
that often comes with a lot of inflammation, a lot of like cortisol, a lot of all sorts of things flowing around your body, and just generally making everything a bit angry and like not
Yeah.
very happy. And meaning that my immune system just is not kind of like as robust as it might be. And little infections that might not bother other people end up turning into like big things for me. For instance, I got my first ever cold sore last year, like first ever in my entire life. And yeah, it's just a cold sore. But for me, full body infection, and I was like in bed for a week, and I needed like antiviral meds and all sorts of like nasty things that you just kind of don't think would come with that territory, but
Yeah.
did.
Well, it often doesn't for most people. Though.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, so on in terms of that hypermobility stuff, I think I reached a point during the lockdown where I'd been working in hospitality for like a good 7, 8 years at that point in time. So sort of I was kind of cheating my way into a lot of activity.
Mm.
You know, moving kegs around and just constantly being on my feet. I was using a lot of energy and I was using my body, and I probably was more fit than I would have been in any kind of other job. And
Yeah.
then obviously that stops the second that there's a huge national lockdown and international pandemic. So
Every
I
time
did,
that happens.
yeah, every time that happens,
Yeah.
hopefully never again. But yeah, like a lot of people, I was like, well, I need to fill my time somehow. I'm gonna, you know, get doing some exercise, and I started running again, and it was great. I was doing really well with it. Didn't do like a really strict kind of like couch to 10K type thing, but it was essentially it was that. And I hadn't really like learned enough about my hypermobility at this point and the kind of differences that I needed to kind of
Yeah.
expect around training and regimes and like, you know, prehab and rehab of injuries. But yeah, so I just kind of like threw myself into it. I had all the gear and no idea, and I was just running, and was on like 20Ks, and I was doing really well with all of that. I was probably the fittest I'd been in probably ever.
Yeah.
And then the injuries. The injuries, they started. We got a bum knee, then it was a hip flexor, then it was my IT band, and they just weren't healing. And I went to the GP, and I went to they made physio referrals, which were do it yourself at home and follow this PDF, or if you're lucky, you got a video to watch. And I did it, and I had better to do, but they just weren't helping. And it turns out probably not helping because my body doesn't move and work in the same way that most people's does.
But also, like, they give you a set of exercises, and if you're not keeping on refreshing those and like getting the next step and the next step, you're not going to be actually progressing with like your rehab, right? So like they gave you the start, and like maybe that helped like the acute stage, but like it's then, well, how do you actually get it actually better and back to where you like need to be active again, right?
And I don't even think it helped the acute stage. Like, I was in a lot of pain for a long time, and it just didn't seem to get any better. So I started to do a bit of my own reading and a bit of my own research, and it just so happened that my mum had ended up with like a really bad plantar fasciitis on her foot, where like it should come that close to the tendon just completely like rupturing and snapping, and had to have a fairly significant amount of like treatment that was on this thing. And then also she ended up going privately for this, but got herself some like really good orthotics. And in her conversations with that orthotist, like sort of information was shared that maybe made it like apparent to me that I needed to kind of consider that for my feet and what I was doing. So I went to an NHS orthotist initially that I was just able to get to in Salford, and he did an assessment in my GP surgery, and like looked at my balance and was like, "Oh, that's pretty terrible, isn't it?" And I was just like, "Oh, great, yeah, thanks." And wasn't actually that helpful. Sort of said that like, oh, there's no evidence that like orthotics actually helps in advance of there being a problem, kind of thing. And actually, do we just create a crutch that then you rely upon, and your body doesn't build up any kind of like tolerances that it needs to? Sounded very reasonable, but also said, if you want to be able to walk when you're 70 years old, then I suggest you stop running. And so I was just like, oh, okay, great. A healthcare professional is telling me to not exercise in the way that I have been doing. So I did stop. I then went to the same private orthotist that my mum had gone to. He had a very different kind of tune, and sort of said that actually that's a really old-fashioned view, is what I'd been told, and that actually, professional orthotics can really help. And yes, you need to go a lot slower, but you can run, you can do things. You just have to kind of go carefully. And I got like I got properly like individual orthotics made and into my training shoes. And then, but I think at that point, I think my confidence had just been really knocked by the thought that I was going to do myself a mischief and an injury. And I was still wanting to do some exercise, but like not quite sure where to go next. Swimming's always kind of been my safe place and my happy place, and I can kind of do that without worrying too much. But equally, like ADHD, I'm good at keeping up with it for like a month really intensively, and then it falls out the routine and I'm not doing it. So I just kind of like I reached the conclusion that I was going to need some professional help in order to make it all happen, kind of thing. But the idea of going to a gym was just so hideous to me, because I don't know, it's just not an environment that I really like feel comfortable in or see myself in. And like, this is going to sound really judgmental, but like there is a type of gym person that I just find really dull. And I kind of didn't ever really see my crowd in there, and the idea of like self-starting and just kind of going was just never going to happen. And then also it was a case of like, okay, well, if I am going to go down the road of finding myself someone to help out properly and really get me back on my feet and knowing what I'm doing and doing it properly, I need to find myself a PT. But then it was a case of like, oh, I need to find myself a PT who's actually going to, one, understand what my body's actually doing, and then two, be queer friendly. And then a little bit of Googling later, and I found Ray. And then, I guess that kind of brings me to now. And we've been basically starting from the ground up and doing the last year, it became very apparent very quickly that like we needed to start on things that most people really take for granted.
Yeah.
Very small little movements of muscles that like I didn't know I had and didn't know I should be using on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And so now we're here.
Yeah, it's been interesting because I've like as you were speaking, I was like, oh my God, actually, obviously I've heard a lot of this and I've like dipped in and out of it. But the like I was exercising loads and then all the injuries happened. Like I was like, oh my God, same. Like I get it.
Yep.
Like yeah, before knowing I was hypermobile, yeah, before we knew there was like, you know, a thing, a reason that we should maybe be using our bodies differently or having different considerations. Yeah, God, I've actually just started training like properly again. Well, properly, just starting to get back into it like literally in this last week. We are back. We are back. And we are not gonna not be back. Like I'm gonna be really careful.
But it's so hard not to just go like full pelt straight away.
Yeah,
isn't it?
because particularly like because you're used to doing things right. Because when you're younger, you're really active. When I was younger, I was moving in ways that I'm not really moving at the moment because I know I'd probably like hurt myself if I do that sort of shit. You know, like it's crazy because like your brain sometimes just doesn't catch up. You do something and then you're like, oh, I probably shouldn't have like done that because I haven't built back up to doing that yet. Like there's no reason that you can't do all these things, right? Like, and I do think that it's funny that you say about those two different healthcare professionals because I obviously get a lot of like when I have clients come and they're like, oh, I want to start with you, but I've got this niggle or la, 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 or they go and hurt themselves outside the gym and I'm like, well, go and see someone about that before we continue using it, you know? So I hear a lot of like feedback in terms of what like advice healthcare professionals give. And it is really like a lot of it is kind of like personal opinion sometimes. I do think like there is definitely some people, particularly in the orthotics, there's people in the camp of like, yeah, they're really good and like, oh, you shouldn't run. Then there's people that are like, no, like dependence or like, oh, no, but actually like you should be able to do anything. And I think that actually it's just down to the person. Like obviously I've worked with so many different people and there's never like one hard and obviously I'm not a medical professional but what I've noticed is also there's no hard and fast rule for anyone and you kind of just need to like work around like you and your body. And I think that like yeah I personally don't think you should be running like right now.
No.
But I think that it's not something that's completely inconceivable. Like right now I also shouldn't be running, right? Like I'm getting back into things, my joints are feeling really stable, like really strong, but I'm not quite up to the stage where they can take that sort of impact. And like it's not just the impact, so obviously when we run our hips and knees will be like other people's would be doing this and ours will be like shifting every impact and that causes wear and tear, which obviously isn't great.
We've spent basically an entire year working on my feet and my legs. Like there's been, I mean, not completely, but like almost completely.
I promise like keep it sometimes excited.
But like it with good reason though, right? Like we got me an assessment with the physio and all of my problems linked back to those flat feet that I had been diagnosed with from age 5. And yet no one had really ever told me to
like if you were just given exercises to be doing like
or told that it was actually important in some way.
Yeah, like oh this could mean like you have problems later in life. Let's sort them out now. Let's get ahead of this. I just
because like having collapsed arches means nothing to a 5-year-old or to a 12-year-old or to an 18-year-old who then stops going to his orthotics appointments because he's an adult now and why do they matter? I haven't had a problem with this in ever. But yeah, it's annoying that they kind of have never managed to kind of put the full picture together for me earlier on. But then I think that also coming back to what you were saying about healthcare professionals, like there's an element of how fresh someone keeps with their like understanding of the latest research, the latest like data, the latest like information that actually has an effect on all of that. Because I think one of the things that probably wasn't a thing when I was a child was an understanding of the relationship between hypermobility and neurodiversity, for example, or the relationship between that and like a compromised immune system even, or the relationship between that and asthma, which I did have because, you know, turns out there's a lot of connective tissue involved in your respiratory system. And if that's really collapsible, you get more inflammation and you get more things like asthma attacks, or you get more things like wheezing and all of that kind of thing. So I think that there was a lot of people who maybe just didn't have that like ability to connect it when I was a child, which is annoying now, but hopefully things are moving in the right direction in that
Yeah.
sense, and people are looking at things a bit more holistically rather than these. Look at all these very separate, isolated things that are going on for this one person, and no one's drawing a line between them.
Connect the dots.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you think, like, obviously you mentioned like the gym, like when you have like thought about it before, feels somewhere that you really don't want to be. Do you think like other people with like different abilities and at different stages with their bodies in terms of like maybe having different needs, like instead of going to gym and just being able to like rack up, you know, squats or like deadlifts and like actually having to do like, you know, maybe the different things that you've been doing, do you think that, like, I don't know, do you think that would also play a part into like how comfortable you felt going into a gym? Like if I just gave you all these exercises, do you think you'd feel comfortable going into a gym and just if the gym was a nicer environment, maybe, I don't know, do you get what I'm trying to say?
I think so, yeah. I think like I would have, but I shouldn't have, if that makes sense. Because I think you could have given me a list as long as my arm of things to go and do, and I'd have gone and tried to do them. But like realistically, every time you've given me a new exercise, it's taking me a little minute to kind of actually get it and find it, because I just don't get that like feedback from my body to tell me that I'm doing something in the right way, which is precisely how I've accumulated so many like problems or wrong ways of kind of like moving. And so giving me a list of exercises, even if I was in a lovely environment, would be a bit of a struggle for me. At least at the start, it certainly would have been anyway. I think now probably slightly different because I've had long enough to kind of find what works and what feels right, and know that I need to like not exaggerate my movements and really like focus small and do those kinds of things. But early doors, I wouldn't have known to do that, and I would have just like marched on in there and like done it completely wrong and then injured myself or worked out the wrong muscle group or whatever. Because I don't think my issue was like, my issue wasn't that I wasn't strong. Like I think I have relatively good strength. It's just that the way that I was actually using that strength and putting it through my joints was just really
like
bad.
strength and stability,
Very different.
very different things.
Yeah. And like, I mean, for example, like I think the first thing that we ever did was like a squat, and it was so bad. I think we both just ended up laughing for about 10 minutes because it was just, I don't even remember what I did, but
just outing me that I laugh at clients.
laughed with, like I could see the funny. It's like it wasn't good, and I look back and I slightly cringe. But like, you know, it's because I would have known that that would have been what I would have had to have gone and done if I'd have just been like doing a follow on my phone type thing, or like just work this out as I go. And like the idea of doing that in a normal gym, just gives me the fear and the ick in a way that makes it a really exclusionary type of space for me. Like I say, I think I'm definitely probably in a different place than I was, and I probably feel much more confident now than I ever would have done before. But there's a lot of elements to that, though. It's not just the not knowing how to do something or not being able to do something well first time. It's also like a culture thing and
because you mentioned the general gym person as being boring. Should have asked, in my head I was trying to think of like, you know, the kind of like the avatar of like, what is this boring like? What is this boring person like? What do they do? Other than people being generally, and other than people boring you, are there any other reasons that that you don't like, that you wouldn't find a gym environment comfortable?
I am queer, and you know, like the way that I present my gender and my sexuality will shift and will change. Like sometimes I might be more masculine, sometimes I might be more feminine, sometimes.
Oh my god, that picture that you sent me was
I was dragged up at the weekend at a
Yes.
festival dressed as a beauty pageant entrant
You look great.
called Misread the Room.
Yeah.
So yes, I was I
interrupted
anyway.
that, but I really enjoyed that.
But I think and don't get me wrong, part of this is my own stereotyping of other people and my own fears of other people, but that still ends up being a barrier. Like, I guess my stereotype version of a gym person is a cisgender heterosexual person who has no awareness of my life, my identity, my community, the things that I enjoy, the ways that I like to be. And I think it's already an exhausting prospect for me to go and like put myself out there to meet and work really intimately with a new person, to like go and do something which I'm not hugely like comfortable or competent in doing, which is like all of the
Mhm.
exercise stuff. And then you add to that like the idea that I'll then have to kind of like put on a bit of mask or dull myself down or like filter what I want to talk about or what I want to say or how I want to
Yeah.
act or how I want to behave or the jokes I might make or the
Yeah.
references I might make. And it just adds up to this kind of picture of just like, oh, do I have to kind of thing. And
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
answer was always no, you don't have to, so don't. But then you just get stuck not changing anything about
Yeah.
your life, your health, your physique, like the things that you want to do and need to do in order to kind of improve your like quality of life and your health. But yeah, it just was never happening,
Yeah.
basically.
I think a lot of people are in the same boat. They're like, I want to do something about my health, but like, where do I go?
Hmm.
And the options out there just aren't options that they think like, yeah, like these aren't going to work for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's a case of like the fear of someone not understanding hypermobility properly as well.
Yeah.
I think, because you can have the best PT in the world with a normal body, throw my body at them, they're not necessarily going to know what to do with that because it's
Mm.
not like the majority of what they will see. And I also think I've maybe got like another bit of a stereotype, but maybe this is more of a just a cis het person in general. But like they're going to style out with confidence that they know exactly what they're talking about and they know exactly what they're doing
Yes.
at all times.
Yes.
And they'll just like tell me that, yeah, it's all going right, or yeah, we do this, or
Yeah.
they'll just like with confidence say, yes, this
Yeah.
is what needs to happen here,
Yeah.
when we don't have a clue
Or
what
like,
we're
oh yeah, you're doing great, exactly like that kind of thing, and you're just like, well, no.
but am I? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just think, yeah, I don't know that I trusted that I would get the like the expertise that I wanted
Mm.
and the value of the like knowledge that I wanted. And knowing that these conditions are really, really, really like not overdiagnosed, like overrepresented in queer people
Yeah.
meant that just, again, it seems like they're separate, but actually
There's such a
often not,
strong
because there's a
correlation. Yeah.
huge correlation
Yeah.
between neurodiversity, all kinds of disabilities, but
Yeah.
hypermobility included, and people who are not from a cisgender or heterosexual
Yeah.
background.
Just built different in general.
Just built different in
Brains
general.
and bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think another issue that maybe I have with like a normal mainstream kind of a gym is that, like, especially when I knew I was going in without kind of having the guidance or the learning ahead of time, is that like all I would have done is like looked around me, look what everyone else was doing and try and copy it. Like, and I would have just been like, oh, so I guess that's what you do in the gym and I'll look at this. But you'll just see like people kind of doing full racks of weights or
Yeah.
like using bits of machinery and this, that, the other. And I'm sure that would have been fine in some respects, but others probably wouldn't have been. And I definitely would have like missed out on a lot of the kind of smaller movements and development stuff that I've definitely needed in the time that we've had our sessions. And I guess one of the nice things for me about the idea of like Jackfruit launching at some point soon is that, I could have a space where I could just kind of keep up with the program that I've been on and not feel like I'm not measuring up to what's going on around me.
Yeah.
Because I'm not at a point where I'm just going and like racking up huge amounts of weights on barbells or dumbbells or whatever.
Yeah.
And it might literally be that I'm doing a kind of like heel raised and seat raised squat because it's the top bit of the motion that like my muscles and my joints haven't been very good at. And yeah, I don't know, like the idea of doing that in a pure gym just gives me a bit of a like, oh.
Yeah,
I'd be
you
expecting
mentioned
judgment.
Yeah,
like,
you mentioned that you were obviously like strong, and I'm the same. Like I could do certain things. I'm strong enough to do certain things, but my joints aren't quite there yet. So you could see someone racking up like 100k deadlift, and you could be like, well, I could physically do that, but then after a while, your joints would be like, no.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and I obviously practically could go and do that in a pure gym. I could, but I know I won't, because I just have this like, I don't know, it just has this, the psychology of that space in my brain is so like surveilled and has such like connotations and like judgment attached to it, rightly or wrongly.
Yeah.
the fact of the matter is that it's there in my brain and I haven't been able to shift that yet. So for me to have a very different type of space to go to would be amazing, honestly. Like, and you know, and definitely now we're at a point where like there is quite a lot of my routine that I could do probably on my own without you there all the time.
Yeah.
But realistically, I still have all of those barriers to doing that in a different type of a space. And I think, yeah, I get all of my homework, but I don't always do my homework. But I think, again, there is a psychology of space element to that as well.
Yeah,
I
if you
associate
go
my
to do
home
it,
with rest, with like, that's where
Yes.
I'm going to go be a potato and like just hang out with my little doggy.
Same. I'm a vegetable at home.
And it's the same reason I don't really work very well at home either. Like I have to go into an office or to a third or a neutral space in order to kind of get my mind into the set of I'm going to concentrate on something now and I'm going to get stuff done and be productive. But it's actually quite similar, I think, with the exercise, because there is an element of the routine and the ritual of going to a different place that makes it much more likely that I will do it and that I will stick to doing it.
Yeah.
So looking forward to it, hopefully soon.
Yeah, like the dream is that you walk in, it doesn't feel like a gym. The idea is it's a queer community space that happens to be a gym. It's also a gym, but it's a queer space.
Yeah.
And that's what the dream has always been, that you walk in, that's what you feel instantly. It's a queer space. It always also happens to be a gym. Because the feeling that you get thinking, well, the feeling I get as well, like thinking about going into a pure gym is, it feels like a gym. Which doesn't have positive connotations for a lot of us.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, it's really hard to try and explain to people from like non-minority or non-queer communities, like what that kind of difference is, because on many levels it is almost imperceptible, but there are spaces which feel oppressive and exclusionary and that like you just, it's a sixth sense sometimes that you just your hairs are on end, your hackles are up, you feel like you have to be on guard, you feel like you have to kind of like think about your like safety, your well-being, and your like, you know, whether that's physical or emotional or whatever. And if I could find myself a little place where I could go do my little exercises and keep up with me things that didn't evoke that response in me, that would be an unbelievable shift, because apart from the pool, I really haven't ever found one.
Yeah. Well, it's happening.
It's happening. Exciting.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for sharing all that. You've been very open, and thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you on. It is one of the hottest days of the year so far.
So if I am dripping in
I feel like we need to go and find some aircon. So thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for watching, and we will see you on the next episode of Fruit for Thought.
Ooh.
Bye.
Bye.